Alrighty, welcome back to Getting Technical with Toxic. A little late today. It's 5:35. My boys, Michigan, play in about 25 minutes. So you're probably not going to watch this by the time the bet is out. But I really don't think there is going to be any bet on that game. I do kind of like Michigan money line at minus 450, but I'm not an idiot, and I was debating putting 45 bucks on that to win an easy 10, but that was just stupid. Um, so that's an exciting game. Michigan plays Pitt. So I'm obviously excited to see how we do against an actual Power Five opponent. Unlike Sparty, we have a easy schedule, which I really don't like. But speaking of Sparty, we can get into the recap of yesterday's games. We had the Champions Classic last night between we had two games. Michigan and Kansas went to double overtime. As you remember, my bet was Kansas money line for my parlay, and I'm sure you saw, if not, are aware that Michigan State won 86-77 in double overtime. Michigan State had two different times to push it into overtime, then push it into double overtime by complete blows in the Kentucky defense. One was a really bad inbounds play underneath the basket, and then one was a full court, pretty much layup. Horrible execution by Kentucky, really gross and ugly. But State, they persevered. They got the win. I am not happy about it, but hopefully I know my friends are, so I guess I can be happy for them, kind of. Moving on, the second game, of course, I parlayed this, so it doesn't really matter. But I had Kansas money line, and of course, Kansas money line hit. So Kansas looked pretty good. They have they have this white dude on their squad. Grady Dick is his name. Looks just like Jeffrey Dahmer. Can jump out of the gym. Beautiful 3-point shot. Really, just a really good player. Freshman. I'm not really sure his recruiting rank, but he might be a 5-star. He looks like an absolute stud out there. So Kansas got the win over Duke. It was kind of a back and forth game. Kansas pulled away in the first half. Duke came back, and then Kansas pulled away in the second half, and Duke could not come back in that game. And then, if you remember, we had two system plays last night where we split 1-1. NC State, Florida International did not go under 154. I think the total was 170 or something. It was ridiculous. NC State had around 50 points at half, finished the game at over 100, I believe. So just a gross game, really bad under. Colgate-Syracuse, we'll talk about that in a second as well, but that game hit. The under of that was quite nice. So systems play hit 1-1. Systems overall now are 11-14 or 71%. So they're doing okay. No system plays tonight, unfortunately. But yeah, it was an interesting day yesterday, that's for sure. And we have a couple upsets that occurred yesterday. Not just the Michigan State, but we have a couple other upsets. So getting into those, obviously Michigan State took off Kentucky. Michigan State was a 7-point dog, ended up winning the game by 9. Pretty big win for State. We also had, I don't have these all listed on here, but we had Alcorn State beating SF Austin, Stephen F. Austin. Stephen F. Austin was 11.5-point favorite. Alcorn State won that game by 9. Bad loss for SFA. Moving on, again, back to that Colgate-Syracuse game. Colgate ended up beating Syracuse by 12, 80-64. Syracuse opened the game at a 7.5-point favorite. Bad for Syracuse. Obviously, Boeheim isn't there anymore. But it's looking like they're not the basketball powerhouse of the good old days. Obviously, it's still pretty young, but bad loss for Syracuse. And then, in my opinion, the worst loss of the night was Prairie View A&M beating beating Washington State 70-59. Washington State was an 11-point favorite to open that game. Prairie View ended up winning by 11. So just a really bad beat by Washington State. Prairie View, we've kind of heard of. They made it to the tournament a couple of times. You see them in Usually at that 16 seed. I have no idea what conference they're in or where they're even located, but good win for Syracuse. So excited for them. Moving on tonight, we have one big game that I'll quickly touch on. We have Gonzaga versus Duke. Number 2 ranked Gonzaga is taking on Gonzaga versus Texas. Number 2 ranked Gonzaga is taking on 11th ranked Texas. Timmy and the Gonzaga boys squeaked by Michigan State by 1 point on the aircraft carrier, and now they play Texas, who has been blowing teams out of the water. Again, they haven't played anyone yet, though. But it should be an interesting game. Texas is currently a 2-point favorite. The over-under is set at 144. So my bet on this game, I will be placing a bet. The amount yet is undecided, but the bet is going to be, oh boy, I'm going to take the over of 144. I hate the play. I think it's a really dumb play. 2 great teams. They really good at offense, but Texas has an unbelievable defense. Gonzaga is known for their high-paced offense. It's going to be a close game. The over is probably the dumb play. It's probably going to finish like 68-64 or something like that. But these offenses, in my opinion, are too high-scoring, too high-powered to take the under in this game. If I had to lean aside, I would lean Texas at home. They are a 2-point favorite. Gonzaga showed some weaknesses against Michigan State, but at the end of the game, they did overcome that and they did win. I just like Texas better if I had to choose, but I'm not going to place my money on that. Again, I'm going to go back to the over. Gonzaga has a very fast-paced offense, make a lot of mistakes, though. Texas's defense forces teams to make mistakes. Hopefully there's just some transition buckets. Hopefully that over can hit. Again, I really don't like to play, but that's what really stuck out to me was the over. Usually when you see a Gonzaga game, the over is in the 150s or 160s, and that's obviously when they're playing a lesser opponent, but I just really like the over in this game. Texas is scoring almost 90 points a game. Gonzaga is scoring in the 80s. It just makes sense for the over here. But yeah, that's what I got. We'll keep this quickly and short. Go Blue. Good win, Michigan State. You can never say I never compliment State because that was my one compliment of the year. But go Blue and go points in Gonzaga, Texas. All right. Thanks for watching. Godspeed. Good luck and good scores.